Have you ever wondered why the homelessness crisis in Canada persists despite the government's numerous promises? Our nation, renowned for its natural beauty and quality of life, is silently grappling with an unseen crisis. The homeless population, once confined to the margins of our urban landscapes, is now growing at an alarming rate. The streets, back alleys, and park benches of our cities have become the unwilling homes for those left behind by the system. Despite the Trudeau government's repeated assurances of affordable housing and support, the situation appears to be worsening. Shelters hastily constructed by those with nowhere else to go are routinely dismantled, leaving them exposed to the harsh elements. Meanwhile, the plight of the homeless is often met with discrimination and abuse rather than compassion and assistance. It's a crisis that, despite its visibility, remains largely unseen by those not directly affected. Now let's delve into the Trudeau government's promises and see how they stack up against reality. The Trudeau government has made a number of promises to tackle homelessness, but how do these promises compare with the ground reality? Let's take a closer look at the situation on our streets. The government has pledged to inject funds into the country's large cities with the aim of creating affordable housing. A grand promise indeed. But what do we see in reality? A stark contrast to the vibrant picture that was painted. It's one thing to promise affordable housing, but the reality is that the number of homeless individuals continues to rise. Not only are we not seeing an increase in affordable housing options, we are also witnessing a decrease in the already limited shelters. The shelters that our homeless population managed to construct themselves, their last resort, are being torn down by the very institutions that are supposed to protect them. But it doesn't stop there. Along with the lack of shelter comes the harsh reality of abuse and discrimination. The homeless population is subjected to a level of treatment that is, to put it bluntly, inhumane. And this isn't a problem that's hidden in the shadows, it's happening right in front of our eyes, on our streets, in our cities. It's clear that the promises of the Trudeau government and the reality on the ground are poles apart. The injection of funds into large cities for affordable housing seems to be lost in translation somewhere along the way. While the government talks about providing homes, the homeless are losing the little shelter they have. While the government talks about reducing homelessness, the homeless population continues to grow. This calls into question the effectiveness of the government's strategies. Are the funds being used as intended? Are the plans being executed properly? Or are we missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? The government's promises sound promising indeed, but the reality paints a different picture. A picture of unfulfilled promises, of a growing crisis, of a population in need of help, not just in words, but in actions. Clearly, there's a gap between what's promised and what's delivered. The consequences of this failure are not just numbers on a page, they are real people suffering every day. Imagine for a moment that you are one of the thousands of Canadians who don't have a place to call home. You're exposed to the harsh Canadian winters, the biting cold, and the unforgiving wind. You don't know where your next meal is coming from, and the constant worry of finding a safe place to sleep is always on your mind. This is the reality for too many individuals in our society. Let's take a moment to consider the story of John. John was once a successful businessman, but after a series of unfortunate events, he found himself living on the streets. His health deteriorated quickly due to lack of proper nutrition and the harsh living conditions. He was hospitalized multiple times, but without a stable home to recover in, his health never fully improved. Then there's Maria, a single mother who lost her job and was unable to keep up with the rising cost of living. She and her young daughter were forced onto the streets where they were exposed to dangerous situations and struggled to maintain a sense of normalcy for the sake of the child's education. These stories are not unique. They are representative of the lived experiences of many homeless individuals in Canada. The impact on their health, safety, and overall well-being is severe. They are often subject to violence, discrimination, and a lack of access to basic health care. The mental toll of living in a state of constant uncertainty and fear is immeasurable. It is crucial to remember that these are not faceless statistics, but individuals with their own stories, dreams, and potential. They are our neighbors, our friends, and our fellow citizens. They deserve the same respect, dignity, and opportunities for a better life as anyone else. Behind these statistics lie real lives, real struggles, and real dreams that remain unfulfilled. So, what can we do to bridge the gap between the Trudeau government's promises and the actual situation on the ground? First and foremost, we need to recognize that homelessness is not a personal failing, but a systemic issue. It's not about laziness or a lack of willpower, it's about a lack of resources and support. The first step towards bridging this gap is through education and awareness. Let's dispel the stereotypes and preconceived notions we may hold about homelessness and understand the complexities of this issue. Next, we must address the pressing need for more affordable housing. The Trudeau government has promised to invest in this area, but we need to see more action on this front. Affordable housing should be a priority, not an afterthought. It's not just about building houses, it's about creating homes and communities where people feel safe and supported. We also need to improve our support systems for the homeless. This includes not just shelters, but also mental health services, addiction treatment programs, job training, and other resources that can help people get back on their feet. We need to create a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of homelessness, rather than just treating the symptoms. Lastly, our policies need to prioritize the needs of Canadians. While it's important to help those in need from other countries, we can't ignore the struggles of our own citizens. Our government needs to balance its responsibilities towards both, ensuring that no one is left behind. In the end, it's about creating a society that values all of its members, regardless of their circumstances. It's about fostering empathy and compassion, rather than indifference and discrimination. And most importantly, it's about holding our government accountable and pushing for change. It's time for the Trudeau government to live up to its promises and make a real difference in the lives of Canada's homeless population.